here today. I'm very just wowed by the last presentation that just went on. So thank you for letting us be part of that journey and to share our journey and our focus on why we feel CSTEM is needed at our school site. I know and I feel really proud because hearing these stories about how all of these wonderful people have started, and they started much later than what our kids are starting at, makes me feel that the decisions we've made to have CSTEM at our school site is correct. So I do want to just kind of share a little bit. This is actually, I'm peeking into Marina's presentation, but this is just some of our second graders, only second graders who are 2 years into CSTEM. They did it for a full year last year at first graders, and they're second graders and they're already fully into CSTEM this year. So can you just imagine if all of you guys had started CSTEM, right? When you were just 6 years old and now at 7 years old, you're able to do all this coding and all of this amazing work. And these are her kids just fully engaged into their learning and just so excited. I was actually in her room today and they just get so excited about being part of CSTEM. Um, but I just want to kind of just share our journey of how we are working with CSTEM. I was honored that when we were at our school about 5 years ago, our staff felt like we wanted to do something different. So we started doing code.org. We also, the year after, started Lego robotics teams. And we were just looking for additional opportunities for school-wide growth. So we were doing things that were hit and miss, but we didn't have like a set program. We didn't have something that we could all be trained in, that we all had the support in, and that we all felt like we can move forward in as a group. We had pieces here and there, but there was not one single thing that was kind of driving us. And we were approached, thank you to Dr. Judy Fancher, who gave us the opportunity to actually start CSTEM, which had already been going on in HLP-USD in the upper grades, and started off immediately with kinder students. So last year, we started our kinder, first and second grade teachers and one fifth grade classroom into CSTEM. And this year we added third grade. And our hope is to hopefully be school-wide in the next year or two with all of our students acting on CSTEM and being active on CSTEM. So I just want everyone to kind of understand like where we started. So it wasn't a school where we didn't already want to do coding or robotics. That was something that our school did want to focus on. We knew that this was something that our kids would benefit from. It was just we didn't have the mechanism to do it. And CSTEM, and I will say this to everyone who's out there, they work so well with us because, and I know Marina's going to talk about this too, is we are a Spanish dual immersion school. So as we were working through a lot of the needs of our school, the team at UC Davis was so willing to support our language needs of our students because we needed a program, and that was the thing, is there were programs out there, but they weren't able to work with us and our students who are Spanish speakers. And our math curriculum is taught in Spanish only. So what was hard is we weren't able to find things that were related to our kids, and a program like CSTEM that was willing to work with us and was willing to be there with us and actually develop something in Spanish with us. So this was kind of our reasoning, is that we did have a discrepancy between our language arts and our math scores. So we do have really high performing language arts scores, and our math scores just aren't near as high as what our language arts score was. And we just had this, as a group, we wanted to do something with coding and robotics, but we wanted to do something school-wide, and we had district support. And I think when we first started with all of our trainings last year, what we became really excited about was that we were able to have the language support with CSTEM, was that they were able to work with us, and when we were working through the math side, is that they were able to help us with the Spanish part of the CSTEM program. So this was something that was really resonating, and our teachers immediately grew to love the training, but also the fact that the team at UC Davis was willing to listen to us, because I feel like we had, and Jeffrey probably wouldn't say this stuff, but we had a lot of input and we were constantly giving input.
Absolutely, and we really appreciate it because it's that ground level interaction that is going to create a system that is going to be scalable at, you know, a much wider range. So we encourage feedback because we are always, you know, making those adjustments. You know, it's just like we tell our kids, those adjustments is how we kind of improve. So, yeah.
And I think, you know, I laugh at this because actually I was actually working with and I actually need to do it sometime soon. But you know, if when you start doing CSTEM, there's actually feedback. There's actually that little tab on the bottom that says feedback. And I was working with some third graders and they found it was a typo. There's a typo in one of the lessons, and it was in Spanish, and they found the typo and they were like very concerned. I was like, well, that's what that feedback back button is. I don't know if the kids did that. They probably didn't, but I did show them. I said, this is a feedback button. That's what the feedback button is there so that you can push that. And don't worry, they're going to read it and they will respond. So it's pretty amazing the work that we've done. And then this professional development, the way that the professional development is done with CSTEM, which is not just that we do the program, but that we come back and we check in and we grow together. And I know yesterday or 2 days ago, the team from our middle school did talk about how that is something that's essential, is that, you know, working together, and we work in a team. That's not just our school, because there are other elementary school teachers who are doing it, but we have other groups that we come online with, and it's great to work together and be able to go through this implementation cycle with them. So before, during, and then even after last summer, now coming back, it's been a really great and kind of just exciting development to work with. And this is kind of where I want to share a story. So my probably best coder here on campus was a teacher who moved out of state and is not teaching anymore, and we had to take a group of kids and a group of computers and everything from ground zero and a brand new teacher. So this talks to the longevity of the program, is that even when our teacher, who was our strongest, dropped out, the CSTEM group was so willing to take a new teacher into the fold, and the support that our district gave us to provide that new teacher the training. And now that teacher has caught all of her students back up, and our students in 5th grade, who we were afraid of because our teacher, who was like our lead teacher, had left, they're all back up on speed and on CSTEM, and they love doing the math. I mean, the robotics parts we're still working through because that's the part that's more of a struggle for us. But the CSTEM math curriculum, the kids love it. They rather do those assignments than the assignments that are online for their curriculum based one. They rather do the CSTEM, and they get so excited. This is just a picture of them where the kids were so happy and fully engaged because the teacher said, okay, instead of us for homework doing this, we're going to actually assign the CSTEM lesson. We're going to start it in class, and you guys are going to have to do the next 2 lessons after that. And the kids were so excited. And this is the 5th grade class, fully working in. And this is a teacher who was a replacement teacher, and she's just come in and she's done such a great job thanks to the support that UC Davis has given her, the district has given her, and then these are the kids, and they've just loved it. They've just been so excited about being active and having that experience now. And this wonderful teacher is Miss Christina Alba. She's just taken off, just along with all of our other teachers, but coming in brand new to a system that was already in place, and she had to learn it. And our 5th graders picked right up. So I think that's always a concern as an administrator, is what's going to happen if somebody leaves. Well, someone left, and we just kept rolling.
I think that kind of just reiterates the community of practice, and it's kind of been a theme that's been threaded starting with the keynote, right? When we're talking about that pipeline and fixing those leaks, and if you have that support network ready to rock, you can support them in any way you can. And I absolutely love working with the teachers. They're doing some amazing things. I was gonna actually have Senora Marina Lee go next. Is she available?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Hello. So my name is Marina Lee. I'm a teacher at Los Altos Elementary School. Yes, it is a Spanish dual immersion. And if you're asking, yes, I am Asian. I am not Hispanic, but I do teach in Spanish. So my students, my second graders do learn 70% in Spanish and 30% in English. And the Robert Blockley was a sort of a challenge last year, not because of the program itself, but because, we have reduced time that we could teach. Therefore, I needed to, focus more on the Spanish language rather than the English. So that was a struggle. And also because we went to quarantine so suddenly, what happened is that when they use the computer has safeguards for the obvious reasons, but those were in conflict with the new program that we were using in Robert Blockley, and that created a conflict. So what happened is that I needed access to the children's computer in order to help them to work or advance in this program, but I couldn't do as much as I wanted to last year because I didn't have access to the computer and I didn't have access to the students. However, this year, now that I have access to all of the computers, I was able to clean it up, download everything, and the children are so excited. And also last year, I had the blogs and robots and all that, but it is different for them to see through a screen versus live. Okay? And even though technology is very abundant these days, these children, they still get excited when they see something moving on their own. So, and they love it. Now, I do, Dr. Mr. Hescock and also Dr. Cheng worked with us a lot in developing the language side of this robotics program. For example, last year, I believe that the Spanish language and also the Korean, because I do speak Korean, the language were a little more difficult for the younger students, and they were able to fix that. And this year I got into the Korean and the Spanish and a little bit of the Italian that I know, and they were much, much better, okay? And I couldn't help it because I'm a former interpreter. So I was so curious as to how this robotics will manage the language portion of the curriculum. With my students for math, I do have them listen to or work with the program in Spanish. However, for English, the coding and the robotics, I do let them do it in English, actually. So I incorporate that into the 30% of the English curriculum that I need to teach. The reason being is because I spoke some colleagues in Korea and also in Argentina, that's where I'm from. And I realized because the technology was originated from the United States, a lot of the words that we use in technology are borrowed words from English. So I thought it was a disservice for me to teach them in a Spanish version of the technology language for them to relearn it when they get out of school. So I do teach the coding and the robotics in English, and I do teach the math portion, which also Robert Blockley provides in Spanish. Okay. I think this is really good, especially for a Title I school, for them to have robotics at this stage, because on my spare time, I do help students apply to colleges every year. So what happened is that a lot of the computer technology, computer science, and computer engineering are very impacted major. What that means is that these children need to have pretty much access to this early on in order to become competitive. And for those children who have the means, who have the financial resources, what happens is that their parents pay for schools and private schools for them to learn this robotics and coding. However, for those children who cannot afford that, or those families who cannot afford to pay for private lessons, they have no access to this kind of coding and technology and robotics, everything pretty much. And so for us to have this in kinder, first grade, second grade, that makes these children that much competitive by the time that they have to go to college. So I believe in this program. I think it's wonderful. I love robotics. I always love robotics, even though I'm not that good at it. I am better in language. So I wanted to just say thank you for giving us this opportunity, or giving my children this opportunity for them to be future engineers, like the panel of students or young adults who we listen from. So thank you very much.
No, well, I gotta say thank you. Some of what you said really resonated with me about the Title I school, because where I come from, in the school that I was working at, there was no computer science,
Yeah.
and sometimes the only device in their home is their parents' cell phone, and that was very and so giving these students opportunities to kind of be like the designers in the back end versus just a user in the front end, I think can do wonderful. So that really resonated with me. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I am going to kind of move us along to our next panelist so that we have time for questioning. And I wanted to see, is Alan here from Redlands? I had the honor.
I'm here.
Awesome. I had the honor of running into you the other week when I came out. And so thank you for joining and getting on board. Do you have, I see that, I think you're on your phone.
I am, yeah. I'm going to try. This is kind of funny how we getting back into this virtual environment. I'm doing like I was helping a research student answer a question about how has technology changed since before COVID and after COVID. And as you know, this was one of the hardest classes to teach during the COVID times. Thank God for RoboBlockly and all of the improvements that were made there. I've been teaching CSTEM for a few years now, I think 4 years. And the advancements that have happened over the last year, even as bad as it was to teach virtually for a lot of us, the improvements that went into RoboBlockly specifically are incredible. Just this week, since that training, I've had the students creating scenes with the translate and all of the different speak. They love it. They are so funny. And I think what I would say to anyone who's worried about this, going into something that you're not familiar with, the less familiar you are with this stuff, the better, because you get as excited as they do when you discover more things. It's so much more enjoyable to explore and figure out stuff with them as opposed to try to get them to figure out stuff you figured out many, many times. So, yeah, and the language translators, it was so much fun this week. I'm just tickled to death. I'll have to send you when they're finished, because tomorrow we're doing a gallery walk on their scenes. Yeah, and it's really funny because they're like translating it into different languages, and they realized that they had this one where the boat was supposed to say SOS and it translated it wrong, and they didn't understand why. So then they translated it into Spanish and they made it say SOS, and it was like a play on words. And so it was like really, really kind of funny, and only the Spanish speakers and the English speakers got it. But it was kind of fun to have that comedy come out. And like I said earlier in the session when we were together, the creativity side is what we're really lacking in schools these days. And this class, it does teach them computer science and it does teach them math, but the most valuable thing for me is that it fosters creativity and it gives them an outlet to create things. I love giving them, now that I've been teaching it long enough, I love giving them very little direction. Like, hey, you have to build at least 2 robots have to be linked together and you have to cross this finish line and we're going to race, go. No examples, no anything. Just let them come across those problems and let them figure it out and just watch it go, because they will actually thrive and they will surprise you and they will come up with things that you didn't think of. And it's way more fun. I think when I was starting off, I was worried because my school expected me to cover the same math curriculum and all the same standards. We had to give the same tests. And that was really frustrating because the order wasn't matching. We teach integrated at my school. And so I had a hard time because integrated could mean anything. It just means that you're just teaching it random in random order. If you look at the integrated books throughout the state, they don't align with each other at all. So that was a really difficult challenge for me. But luckily, I got to the point where I realized that the kids can learn the math way faster when they have incentive. And there's no bigger incentive than playing with robots. So we've been just basically going back and forth and trying to like, okay, we have to do these standards. So I just find it and I make it work. You know, it's actually gotten really easy to find things on RoboBlockly and using the curriculum there. And in the end of the day, I know my kids are going to be better off in this class. And the, you know, the just the excitement and enjoyment is really the selling point. So um, so yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm actually right now at our last training, I'm leaving the CSTEM because I teach computer science now. I didn't used to, but now I have a CTE credential and I'm becoming the pathway teacher. And we're training a new teacher to take my CSTEM classes, which is fine because he has computer science background and he's excited about it. And that's all really you need. So as long as you have teachers who are excited about teaching computer science and just learning new things and not being afraid to be uncomfortable or have things not work perfectly, because they never work perfectly. Nothing ever does.
So, oh wow, a lot of what you're saying is kind of like we've been hearing throughout the conference.
Yeah.
And it really is. We're really, from what I'm hearing, is that the students are. It's okay to make a mistake, right? Like what we're doing actually is we're allowing our students to build up their own resilience and perseverance, and it brings some of that fun back, right? And then I've seen it in my own class as you have too. Let me go ahead and check to see if I had a question that I didn't want to hit, that I wanted to hit. I'm sorry. So I'm going to open this question to kind of everyone. And I just want to kind of tie it back into the theme of this panel is, what are some of the benefits of establishing a CSTEM math and or CS pathways in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, or multiple different types of schools? So yeah, I'm going to open it up to the whole panel.
I'll start if that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that everyone else could talk to. But I just would say that, you know, I think the big thing is you know, having the stakeholders' input. I think at our site, you know, what was really a need, and Marina understands, is there's a lot of parents who wanted something, who needed this and who wanted that. And so what was really essential here was making sure that our stakeholders wanted it and that everybody was willing to go along on this road, because everybody here had been trying to piecemeal stuff together, because we were getting a lot of, well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? And I know this isn't something I added at the beginning, but the reason I started robotics is because I was doing robotics with my kids. And I have this firm belief that if it's good for my own personal children, then why aren't I doing it here at a school? Right. So, and I think, you know, having that philosophy and having the families feel that they wanted that too, and having a staff who was willing to also kind of go that, because, you know, we were being asked, you know, why don't we have this? Why aren't we doing this? And having that's kind of the first step, is, you know, having those stakeholders aligned. We were lucky enough to have a school district that was really willing to support us in this, because it's not something that was easy to do. You know, funding is always a concern, but this is something that is so strong, and we're already seeing the benefits of it. And what we're excited to see is what's going to happen to these kids who have done it for 2 to 3 years, and what is their math scores going to look like come down the road. But I say, you know, first setting up the steps is, you know, really having those stakeholders aligned, because once you have their supports, and our parents are very excited. They were super excited doing it at home, although it was frustrating for them. But now that they're back at school, the parents love to hear that the kids are back and they're working on their CSTEM lessons.
Thank you. Marina Lee, do you have anything to add? Or okay.
I don't know what else to add.
So I put in the chat that you can feel free for our attendees and other panelists, if you want to ask any questions. We have probably about 1 or 2 more minutes. Mr. Tho, do you have any thing to add on what Principal Sinapi was talking about?
Yeah, well, for me personally, I feel like this is that time of where I'm starting to realize that maybe what was best for me when I was young is not what's best for the generation I'm teaching. So I think that's the hardest part for teachers to let go of, is when I was young, we did this and that. It's like, you're not young now. They are. Think about the world they live in, and let's maybe teach appropriately. So for sure, my kids, I know, have a leg up on the kids who are burying their head in a book. So we're not doing them a disservice by teaching them robotics and computing. That's for sure.
But I think more than anything is that, children are so into video games and things like that. And those are the two-dimensional things that they are involved in. But however, if whenever they play with robots, with actual robots, they get that three-dimensional knowledge, the common sense that they can develop. So it's not just the math knowledge in itself. It is a main part of it, but it is just understanding the world and making sense of things, and in a way getting their head out of those two-dimensional video games. And I think that's how these children, somebody talked about creativity. Yes, creativity is basically problem solving. And I think by having a hands-on experience with robotics and programming, I think that's what they get. They get a problem solving skill that they need.
Well, that's fantastic. I just want to
Yeah,
say
very
thank
very-
you. Thank you for your guys' expertise and in sharing your experiences with our